Yep.
Ready?
We're ready.
All right, we'll call the regular meeting of July 26, 2023 to order. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Douglas.
Here.
Ms. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Horvath.
Here.
Mrs. Sensi.
Here.
And Mr. Thompson.
The motion to approve the agenda.
Aye. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
And Mr. Horvath.
Yes. Your motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 14th, 2023.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
And Mr. Horvath.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Your motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 27th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Horvath.
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
And Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Anyone wishing to give a board member report this evening?
Yeah, on Saturday, I participated with a foursome and Officer Caswell. I put together a function at Erie Shores for a golf outing. Students against destructive decisions, and it was good turnout. It was a great time. Mr. Albert was there, and then afterwards, we went to Seawater. So it was a good event. Good amount of foursome there. Hopefully next year it's even better.
So what is it? Students against what?
Destructive decisions.
Uh-huh.
And, just kids with, the struggles and the decisions they have to make today and trying to stay on the course. And
Used to be like the old Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Okay.
They
Okay.
changed, rebranded.
Cool, thank you.
yeah, no, it was at Erie Shores and they did a good job supporting us and. It's good.
Right.
Yep, yep.
I don't have a report, but I do want to focus in on this. But I cannot say this last name. So can you help me out by any chance?
Matsu? I'll go that way.
Is it Alcie? Alcie?
Yeah, Elsie Samasuku.
Well, this young person is a second grader at North Elementary School, and she did this wonderful picture, and it's called Twilight Tree. And that's our cover today.
Anyone else wishing to give a board member report? All right, the next item on the agenda is a salary increase for our superintendent. This is an increase of 1.5%, which is the increase that the board approved for our collective bargaining agreements. And this would be to increase her compensation by 1.5% effective August 1st, and to authorize the board president and the treasurer to execute addendum to the superintendent's contract.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
And Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Similarly, this is next item is a salary increase for the treasurer of a 1.5% increase effective August 1st. And to authorize the board president and the treasurer to approve the contract addendum.
I'll move. Oops, sorry.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi.
Yes.
Mr. Horvath.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes.
Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
And Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you both for all the hard work throughout the year. Greatly appreciate it.
I would just like to do this quickly and jump order because there's a window of weather to get this nice young lady home. But I'd like to introduce Marissa Martel. She is our new English teacher at Madison High School, replacing Vince Austin. we're very excited to have her, and she is an alumni of Madison High School.
Awesome.
So she'll be working with some of the teachers that she had when she was in high school.
Welcome back. What year did you graduate?
2017.
Who's your fourth grade teacher?
Hey. But I wanted to introduce her so that, look at, it stopped. So that you don't have to drive home in the downpour.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Welcome
yes.
aboard. Welcome.
all right.
And which one of your teachers inspired you the most?
Not be too hard to pick.
Very good.
Very diplomatic.
Favorite board member either. Right?
Well, welcome. Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing that. But I saw a window and
Yeah, for sure.
she doesn't have a nice blanket to come in.
We don't have anyone registered for public participation, so reports and recommendations of the treasurer.
Thank you. The first item up is the resolution to proceed for the permanent improvement levy that we will be putting on the ballot. This is the last step in the process, and after this is passed, I will take it to the Board of Elections. Our deadline is August 9th, so we're much ahead of that deadline. And this is the final process to get it in the ballot. So with that, I would like to recommend the resolution determining to proceed to levy a renewal in excess of the 10 mil limitation.
I'll move.
Any discussion? Not a tax increase, it's a renewal levy. I'm glad we're doing this early. The Board of Elections have been absolutely swamped with this issue one and all the voters coming out. So they have just hundreds of people every day showing up for early voting. So glad we're getting this done. Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passed. Next up, I would like to recommend the approval of the return of the advances made at year end. These are all, at the end of the fiscal year, you can't have a fund that's in the negative, and with the grant funds and the timing of requesting money from the Ohio Department of Education, typically every year an advances need to be made into those funds until we get the reimbursement back from the state, which we have for all of these funds. So now we're just returning the money back to the government.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passed. Finally, I'd like to recommend the approval of the June 2023 financial statements as presented.
I'll move.
One second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passed. And that concludes my treasurer's report.
Thank you. Reports of the administrative team?
All right, I have a few items this evening. First, I wanted to share with you, as I did in the quick update yesterday, that we have received additional money in our Stronger Connections grant. Any district that applied was awarded a certain lump sum. We got an additional $50,000 based on our needs, so our total award is $84,000. Dave participated in a regional call with Ohio State, who's doing some mental health initiatives, and we have regional meetings while I was on vacation, and it aligns nicely to the work that's going to be in this grant, because it's to provide wellness supports for students and staff. And so we will be hearing more about that through the coming year. Hiring update, we are, as I shared yesterday, and we'll be accepting somebody's retirement. We're looking for a 5th grade teacher at North Elementary. Karen Doyle retired effective the end of the month. And so we will be replacing her. We hired for the split math science position at the middle school today. We're waiting for some transcripts. So this person will come forward at the next board meeting. I wanted to talk a little bit about the property on Bennett Road because Michelle had brought it up to me last earlier this month, and Brian brought it up to me as well in a conversation. It is, the softball team is no longer, or softball organization is no longer functioning. So that's left the property pretty much in disrepair. As far as weeds and maintenance, that kind of stuff. It's just a really big empty field. So I talked to Pat today and I told him to get a price to brush hog it. And then we need to talk about what you want to do with the property. And if we want to sell it, then that would kick Sarah and I into looking at the disposal of real property and what's entailed with that. And we would talk to our attorney that handles the real estate to help us in what we need to do going forward. So I guess, it's not a vote, but do you want me to look into what we need to do to dispose of the property? Or is this something you want to hang on to, and then we just have to continue to pay the cost to maintain it?
I'd be interested to know what the value of the property is.
When the softball group was still functioning, Mike Warren thought we could get $100,000 for it at the time, a
And
few
how much
years
is
ago.
there? Do you know how many acres?
I
there
think
is?
it's 15 acres is what Pat told me today. Because he said that, to brush hog it, we don't own a brush hog. He has his own brush hog, but I'm not gonna have him use his equipment, and we have too many other things going on that it would be easier to hire somebody to come in and brush hog it.
Well, and quite honestly, I mean, if we do end up hanging on to it, why does the whole property have to be brushed off? You just gotta do it along the front to maintain
Yeah.
the roadway.
I have not been to that property in years, so I kind of have to go and look at it and see what it,
Be good for hunting. Or if someone wants to build a house, but it's overgrown.
We own any other properties, or is that the,
I think that's the last of any other properties other than the properties that our buildings are. There was property years before that I think we sold off to Perry years ago when that was way before my time. I think it was sometime in the 90s. But I'll look into, what the steps are. I wanted to follow up. I talked to Danny DeRobertis yesterday. He is looking to have his committee come under the arms of the rec board, which makes sense because it's already an existing 501(c). And he's got some paint colors picked out, so he's gonna meet with the athletic council to show the things that they want to start immediately and hopefully have in place before the first home football game. As we talked about, there is an election on August 8th, so there will be voting in this building and at South Elementary. And finally, on Tuesday, I will be doing amidst all the things in the office, listening to the budget bill update that is an all-day thing, but they're not requiring people to go to Columbus to get the information, thank goodness, so that I can listen to it in my office and keep working. But there's a lot in this budget bill that keeps getting leaked out. So it's not just about the money, it's about what is going to be required of us in schools. And so I'm anxious to hear some of the things that they're going to be talking about on Tuesday. And I will have a full update for you in next week's newsletter. Because like I said, there's little things you read, this attorney's put a summary out, this attorney puts another summary out. There's a lot in there. One of the things that is in there that I've read in several places and feel comfortable discussing is the third grade guarantee. There is no longer the retention provision required. As long as parents say that they want their students to go on to fourth grade, the students can go on to fourth grade, whether they pass the third grade reading test or not. So that was, I think, the House really was pushing for that. And it must have come through in the last minutes of the conference committee, because I know for a fact, I heard that, Senator Serino, when he was talking at our superintendent's retreat, that there were many in the Senate that weren't in favor of that. So it came out of conference committee with the provision of parent permission. The parents have to sign off that they're gonna promote their child. More to come. And that's my report this evening. Mrs. Grimes, do you have anything?
I just wanted to thank our staff. Our summer school programs are coming to an end tomorrow. Our extended school year services, ESY, are for our students who have a little bit more significant disabilities. And because that population is increasing, it seemed to be more cost effective to offer it in our own building versus in the past, we've sent students to Broadmoor. And that is quite a bit more than our own staff. And I just want to say, I think I said it before for our summer learning that went on in June. We have such great staff that come and work. And as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it, but the other local school districts were amazed that we have so many staff members that want to work our summer schools. They're always looking for summer school, and I literally had almost too many. So we had plenty of subs and everything, and the families, everything was fantastic. We had great partnerships. The Lake Metro Parks came today and did an adapted program for our students. In fact, one of our teachers works for them, and so we were able to get this pilot program for free. And we've just really had a great run the last 3 years, and all of that money was, through our ARP or whatever the ESSER fund. So everybody would hope that we could continue that in some way next year. But I just think our staff is amazing and are very giving and patient and everything that I can say positive. It was really very, it was very good. So.
Jen, I recently had a parent ask some questions about what we do on the flip side, the total opposite end, the gifted students. What are we offering, if anything, to those students?
That is Angela's.
We have had to change the model because we used to have a gifted teacher, and that was one of our cuts several
years ago.
several years ago. And we have switched over to the ESC is going to begin supervising our gifted programs. And we have trained our teachers. There's a PD model that's approved by the state that at the middle school in English language arts, they have all taken the PD to be able to differentiate for students within their classroom, because that really is the best practice model. And we've got a few teachers trained at the high school. Next year, our third graders that tested gifted, we had several of them at South. They're going to be in Mrs. Previtt's classroom because she is a gifted intervention specialist as well as a regular teacher, in third grade. So the kids are going to be in her room. So we're working on the model. I'm excited to work with the ESC. I had just talked to her today, and she's going to meet with our principals and see what ways we can improve our programming.
So at the elementary level, we are going to be having something at the third grade level. What about the other grade levels?
The other grade levels, we have got to promote this idea of the professional development, because otherwise they won't have anything till 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And when I was talking to the gifted supervisor from the ESC today, she said they have been developing these modules that teachers can take online to become, have the number of hours to promote the gifted programming in their classrooms. So, going to take some time.
And then like our math and our science clubs, what grade do they start at in our elementaries?
I think they're 4th and 5th grade.
So if we have a second or a third grade, well, third grade we'll have something for, but if we have a second grader that's excelling or something, we don't have anything additional to offer to them that might be able to.
Acceleration in that subject that they're, identified or talented in.
How's the numbers for kindergarten?
They're still not quite there yet. We're about 70 at south and we might be a little higher at north. They're next week, the building's open on the 1st. And so our enrollment specialist, Deneen, today was, I'm really worried about some of the numbers at north and the other grade levels. And I said, you're gonna get a whole series of withdrawals on top of all the people that have enrolled here over the summer. So I said, it's gonna be fine. We're not at panic yet. But, she's learning to watch those numbers for me and tell me exactly, where we're at every day. But kindergarten has been slow to come in, but they're coming. Because she even said there's some that we have from preschool that haven't enrolled yet, that we know are going to kindergarten. They're just not enrolled. I think we will have 4 sections in each building easily, because we're getting to that over 70 part. In the next 2 weeks, that enrollment will explode. I did want to share one last thing. And I have it from Liz Nanninger. Last year, she wrote a grant to do some things, extra things with her students. This year, she was awarded an amazing scholarship through the Ohio State University. And through this program, it will let our middle school students go on a field trip to Stone Labs to complete actual research on Lake Erie. The scholarship pays for the trip, transportation, and a sub for the day for her. And she just found out that she got the grant and they're scheduled to go October 25th. So I will be putting that on the next board agenda for approval. The transportation will be provided by and coordinated through Ohio State University. And it's an all-day trip, like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And, she's allowed to take 25 of those students and she's been working with Science Club and, she's been doing the science club at the middle school, so she's going to start there to look at how she picks the kids to go. And I think some of her kids with Arthur Holden Leadership Institute as well. So it's very exciting. And, she's a go-getter at trying to find out, other opportunities for our students. So I applaud that.
Excellent.
Anything else? Any questions? All right, well then I'm gonna move right on to the recommendations. We're asking you to accept the resignation of Mary Ann Effler, Madison pre-K teacher, effective July 7th, 2023. To accept with regret the retirement resignation of Karen Doyle, fifth grade teacher at North Elementary School, effective August 1st, 2023, after 17 years of service to the district. To employ Marissa Martell as an English language arts teacher at Madison High School under a 1-year limited contract, effective the 2023-24 school year. To employ the following certificated personnel under a 1-year limited extended service supplemental contract for the 2023-24 contract year, beginning with Catherine Kaminsky and ending with Brett Tomko. To approve the supplemental out-of-district special education coordinator for Teresa Solar for the 2023-24 school year. To approve a transfer of Allison White from a 7-hour special needs assistant in Madison Middle School to a 7.5-hour building secretary position at Madison High School. To approve the transfer of Carrie Blair from a 7-hour special position as a special education assistant at South Elementary School to a 7.5-hour building secretary position at South Elementary School. To amend the following wage rates. To increase the administrative employees' wages by 1.5% effective August 1st, 2023. And to increase the exempt employees' wages effective July 1st, 2023, and honor one-time limit payments in the OPSI contract for the 23-24 school year for the exempt staff. And then to amend the employment contract of Deb Sanford, Pupil Services Administrative Assistant, to a 12-month contract with 20 days vacation effective July 1st, 2023. To amend the personal service contract of Shelby Seibert as Madison Middle School 7th grade volleyball coach to a teacher supplemental contract at the same rate of compensation. To amend the employment contract of Frank Homage custodian dated November 22nd, 2022 from step 0 to step 2 on the pay scale, and to amend his employment contract for the 23-24 school year to step 3 on the pay scale.
A second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next item is the longevity payment schedule. We've talked about all year with the reduced staff in this building. What are some things that we can do to support the ladies that help support all of us here in this office? And we came up with a longevity payment schedule, as many of these ladies would be at the top of the salary schedule to begin with. Sarah and I have talked about how we're going to work on that salary schedule this year and bring it at some point to you during the course of the year, so that as we have turnover, we have a fair place to start and hire from using a salary schedule. So we're asking you to approve the following schedule of longevity payments for exempt secretarial staff who do not have a salary schedule. And do you want me to read the whole thing or? Okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
I actually have one question.
Sure.
You said the ones who do not have a salary schedule, so after we get them a salary schedule, will they continue to get these?
We'll revisit that, but like I said, most of the ladies, there's only one person here that is below the 5 years. And it's because of its continuous employment in the district.
Yeah,
So all these other ladies have been here 20
Sure.
to 25 years, so they're nearly at the top to
I
begin
understand. It
with.
made the most sense.
Yes.
The
Okay.
time, right.
So really those. That's what we're at.
Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, and we are asking for your approval of bus routes and stops for the coming school year.
Second.
Any discussion?
Did you ask them if there's been any changes?
Minimal changes. I mean, what they will at times have to during the school year combine routes if they don't have a driver, but those, right now, we're looking to be fully staffed for the first day of school.
Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And actually, we did miss one thing. We approved the agenda, and this is the second reading of board policy updates. So we're asking for your approval tonight to adopt the following board policy revisions.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we have several items on the consent calendar this evening. To approve the contracts between Re-Education Services and Madison Local Schools for the education, therapy, transportation, and support of students served outside of the district for the 2023-24 school year. To approve the contracts between Mentor Exempted Village School District, CARES, and Madison Local Schools to, again, provide education and related services for students served outside of MLSD for the 2023-24 school year. To enter into an agreement between the Madison Local Schools and Edutech Group to provide technology services and personnel for the 2023 school year. To approve the contract between Education Alternatives and Madison Local Schools for the transportation of students served outside of the Madison Local School District for the 2023 school year. to approve the contract between GCL Education Services and Madison Local Schools to provide education, therapy, and related services for students served outside MLSD for the 2023-24 school year. We'll approve an increase in the family capital pay to participate fees from $650 to $720 effective the 2023-24 school year. And to approve the renewal of the voluntary student accident insurance through Strassman Insurance Services for the 2023-24 school year. That's the consent calendar.
I'll move.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We don't have anything else, is that right? We don't have a need for executive session, so if we have a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Horvath,
Yes.
Mrs. Sensi,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
and Mr. Thompson.
Yes.